the call to counter the anti-government protests this week from Kakamega to Kirinyaga to Kisii and Laikipia. The MPs from the ruling party staged protests against the demos as instructed by a parliamentary group meeting at State House earlier this week. Speaking in Kakamega, UDA Secretary General Cleophas Malala told opposition leaders to give President Ruto time to implement the Kenya Kwanza manifesto.
Tafadhali wapatie rais nafasi ya fanya kazi yake. Yeye ameingia juzi katika ofisi, apewe nafasi afanye kazi yake kama rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya. Mambo ya kumtisha kwamba mnataka kuleta maandamano ndio mpate handshake. Watu wa Kakamega wamesema hawataki maneno ya handshake.
Kakamega town is very peaceful. Watu wanaendelea na biashara yao. Hali ya usalama iko shwari. Na tunataka kusema Kakamega sisi hatutaki maandamano.
Haiwezekani that the cost of living ama bei gharama ya maisha itashuka chini kwa kuvaa sufuria kwa kichwa. Haiwezekani. It is not possible. The best thing is let us support the government.
There is no single nation that was built by people demonstrating, picketing and acts of hooliganism in the streets. It will take a man or a woman to build up a vision. Ajiri watoto wetu.
MPs to some pictures that were the order of the day yesterday in the city center as traders closed businesses over fear of looting. Now, the Nairobi Central Business District was deserted as most businesses closed down under fears of violent protests. Here are some of the pictures from the city center yesterday. And President William Ruto has ruled out handshake with Raila. President William Ruto has once again ruled out the possibility of a handshake, a deal with his opposition nemesis Raila Odinga, and called on the opposition to conduct peaceful demonstrations. Speaking in Kericho, the president said his government will not condone the destruction of property and the paralyzing of businesses.
Anaitwa nani? Kama mko na matatizo, kuna njia ya kisheria ya kuendelea. Tulikubaliana na wao ya kwamba tuongee. Sijui kama tunaelewana. Wakawacha mambo ya kuongea, wakaenda kufanya vita. Na mimi nataka niwaambie, we have absolutely no issue with any constitutional provision on picketing or even on demonstration. Siasa yetu haitakuwa na vita, haitakuwa ya kuharibu mali, haitakuwa ya kuharibu barabara. Itakuwa ni siasa bila chuki. We must protect this country and the police must be firm on hooligans, on criminals, on people who want to destroy other people's business.
Sasa mimi sina kazi nyingine, rais aendelee na mambo ya uchumi na mimi nimeweka mitego kila pahali. Wakijaribu kuja mimi na deal na hawa.
Tumeanza kukula mahindi mbichi huku. Kama umejipanga namna hiyo ndio utaweza kuteremusha gharama ya maisha kwenda chini. Sio kuweka sufuria kwa kichwa.
Ile tunaomba kwa vijana ni kwamba tufanye kazi na serikali. Tuendelee maendeleo ama tunataka maandamano.
You can't use blackmail. You know, it's a form of blackmail. It's a form of terrorism. You know, where you can kidnap somebody and then you say, okay, let's negotiate how to release this person. That's what they are trying to do. It's a form of blackmail.
And away from that account of the government, two Catholic bishops urge President Ruto to repeal Finance Act. Catholic bishops in Kenya now want the government to repeal the controversial Finance Act and the opposition to call off its 3-day anti-government protests that began yesterday. Here is the clergy speaking to the media.
The recently enacted Finance Act places an unsustainable burden on already distressed citizens especially those within the low income bracket. We, therefore, ask the President to repeal the Finance Act and institute a process that will seek to achieve the same goals within the context of the current economic context.
We have appealed to Azimio la Umoja to seek alternative strategy that would not hold the entire country hostage and lend itself to violence and destruction. The recent demonstrations that we have taken place across the country recently have resulted in significant negative consequences, including injuries, property damage, trauma and the loss of lives. Kenyans and our leaders must be willing to listen to each other for the sake of peace of our country. We condemn what we have seen simmering as ethnic-based violence spotted in some parts of our country. Given the circumstances of the week and what is going on to happening today, we did not succeed meeting them face to face. However, we are ready, prepared. We have a system, we're just waiting for that openness. But we also do understand the stress they're going through at this particular moment. We demand the failed bipartisan talks should be resumed in a different context that brings on board the religious leaders and some eminent persons and bodies. We believe that there is no problem, however difficult, that cannot be resolved through dialogue. We must at all costs avoid the loss of lives. No further blood should be shed.
We are particularly appalled by unbecoming, insulting, and inciting statements made by leaders. This is causing confusion among the population regarding the direction the country is taking.
We want to emphasize and express a firm stance against such acts of violence and abuse of power. Police have an obligation to deal with criminals disguised as demonstrators. Police cannot take advantage to brutalize innocent Kenyans. Such acts are unacceptable, must not be tolerated under any circumstance.
It is crucial not to lose hope and succumb to despair. By working together and engaging in a constructive dialogue, Kenyans can collectively brainstorm, implement innovative approaches to tackle the socio-economic issues at hand.
And away from the bishops to another story here, and it is about Nakuru West MP Samuel Arama draws a gun in public, and drama ensued in Nakuru when Nakuru West Member of Parliament Samuel Arama engaged in a gun drama as he threatened to shoot protesters. Arama claims that the protesters had threatened to destroy properties within the Nakuru Central Business District.
Kitu ya kushangaza ni kwamba hii watu si maandamano wanafanya. Sasa wameanza kuharibu vitu ya watu. Hata kwa hoteli yangu huku chini wameenda wamebomoa. Na sasa juzi nilikuwa nimeona watu wakiongea wakisema maandamano inatakikana kuwa ya amani. But hii maandamano si ya amani. Siwezi kukubali vitu zangu nimejenga watu waanze kubomoa for no reason, because mimi sijaelewa ni kwa nini.
Tangu asubuhi hali haijakuwa mzuri. Kuna vijana wawili washapigwa risasi. Mmoja amepelekwa hospitali kama anapumua kidogo. Kuna mtu wa boda naye ameuliwa hapa Steamer Line karibu na Mazembe Ground. So huku chini situation yenyewe iko ni vijana dhidi ya polisi.
Mtoto wa miezi 7 amepigwa tear gas, ameshindwa kupumua. Na mimi sina chochote, sina mbele wala nyuma. Polisi wanakuja wanapiga tu tear gas kwa plot ndani.
Kwa hiyo maandamano ilikuwa tu on money. Mpaka place ilifika tulikuwa yani watu walikuwa wametoka wote nje. Sasa tulikuwa najua wanatumia live bullet. wakaanza kuachilia. So hapo ndo niliona mwenzangu mwenye alikuwa kando ameanguka akufia hapo. Mimi nikaangalia mkono ndo nikapata inatoa damu.
And away from that, now to Embakasi East MP Babu Owino arrested, and at least 9 opposition leaders and their associates were arrested during day 1 of the country-wide opposition protests.
Up to date, we are not aware of his whereabouts. So we are kindly asking the government, being my brother, Maurice Ogeta, wasn't a politician, but was just a guard to one of our own Raila Odinga. So the family is really in pain and asking for his release. If the government knows his whereabouts, and we are pretty sure this is more political than any other thing. Let the government release the brother, and we ultimately giving the government up to 6.
Siku ya kesho pia kwa sababu wapinzani wamesema wataendelea na maandamano, sisi tutaendelea na kazi ya kushika doria kuhakikisha kwamba watu wa Mombasa wana enjoy ile peace bila kutatizwa na mtu yoyote.
Kazi yetu ni kuhakikisha kwamba kuna usalama Kilifi, na tumehakikisha kwamba wananchi wanapata usalama bila kutishia.
And away from that, 2 students of Ikonge Girls suffer from a suspected food poisoning. 148 students of Ikonge Girls Secondary School in Nyamira County are admitted at various hospitals in the county of a suspected food or water poisoning.
Kwa haya maneno tuyasikia sasa asubuhi, na tumekuja kwa hospitali, tumethibitisha watoto wamepata nafuu, wamepona. Ile tu mwalimu alituambia ni maji ilikuwa walikunywa maji, walisugu maji haikuwa safi vizuri, haikuwa imepewa dawa.
Asubuhi tumeamkia tukiwa na msangao mkubwa. Tukapata pali ya kwamba watoto wamesha gonjeka kwa kunywa maji mabaya kwa shule. Sasa ndio imetukimbisha kwa hospitali kuja kuangalia kama watoto wetu wako hali nzuri.
It was reported to us that the students were uncomfortable. They were having problems with stomachache and diarrhea. Arrangements had been made bring them to Ekerenyo and Mogumo in Ikonge. We liaised with ministry personnel, and they were brought to those hospitals.
Sent a team to school to confirm exactly what the problem is. The students are presenting with low abdominal pain, diarrhea, vomiting. It's a similar presentation across. We've taken their stool and sent it for culture.
And away from that story, we come to the end of the stories that are making headlines in the country. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're coming back with stories that are making headlines